Hi guys, welcome back to SwitchUp. Thanks to Tino Games who have sponsored this video. Now Neoverse quietly dropped onto the Nintendo eShop about a week ago, and it wasn't upon going back and having a little check to see if any stealth drops had come out that I thought, my goodness, this looks amazing. At first glance it seems to have similarities to titles like Slay the Spire, which is an incredible game, but as usual there just are too many games to review and we didn't get a chance. A few days later though, these guys hit us up and said, hey look, we still really would like you to cover our game, and obviously we can't do that in a review format. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to essentially structure it like a review, but I'm not going to give it a score at the end. What I will say though is I wouldn't do this format if I didn't like the game. I think Neoverse is a very good title and well worth your time. But is it the ace of spades? Well, let's find out. The narrative goes that there are three characters who have the strength and capabilities to save the Neoverse. The emphasis though isn't on narrative, it really is on that core gameplay, and in all honesty that's where Neoverse absolutely shines. You'll select one of the three main characters to begin with, although two will initially be locked. They each have unique skills, weapons and abilities, and there are a number of different costumes to unlock for each one. What was very cool is that there's almost a job system which essentially acts as classes. So out of the three characters, each have 4 different classes which provide them with a unique set of cards, and that drastically changes the gameplay. A good example of this is Claire, who on the one hand can become a vampire. This will unlock cards that allow you to leech the life of enemies, and your vampiric abilities will stack when used, which can then trigger devastating attacks if you use the right combination of cards. And it is all about using the right combos. If you do so, you'll often be rewarded with extra combo damage, but we'll go a little bit more into that in a second. And you can equip up to 3 different unique pieces of gear to them as well. The main mode, Adventure Mode, is the one you'll start out on, but there are others that can be unlocked as you progress, such as Challenger and Hunter modes. At the start of each adventure, it essentially acts very much like a Slay the Spire run. You'll have to complete a number of battles, fight a boss, and then move on to the next area and gradually get further in, and it gets more difficult, but the rewards get much greater. But how do you actually play it? Well, here's how it goes. Just before entering that stage, you can choose 3 different difficulty tiers, and these again have a risk and reward mechanic, whereby the more challenging ones down the bottom will offer you a much greater reward, but you'll have to achieve a very specific criteria. Combat starts with a group of enemies facing you, and from your total deck of cards, you're dealt 5 at the bottom of the screen. You are able to use the analog sticks to control a cursor, but it's much easier and very responsive to use the D-pad. By pressing right and left, you can quickly switch to different cards, and in their simplest form, they're divided into offensive and defensive cards, as well as ones which can be used instantly, and those which apply for the duration of your fight. They all take a different amount of points to use, and each have a rarity which is shown in stars on the front, which denotes their potency and is often a quick way to choose between 2 similar cards. When you've used all 5 of your points, it'll be time to let the enemy take their turn. Now what you'll notice, and something that actually I didn't notice, it was my 5-year-old son, is that you can actually see and preempt what the enemy are going to do next, because it will show down the bottom whether they're going to be doing an attacking move, which will be red, or a defensive shielding maneuver, or something else. It will be shown with a little icon at their feet. This is a really nice choice as it takes away much of the RNG, so the random number generator behavior that these games can be filled with. It allows you to accurately decide what you're going to do next and potentially go on the offensive if you want to take out the enemy's shields, knowing that the next thing they're going to do is not going to harm you. And much of the strategy comes from that decision, as well as deciding when to hunker down and concentrate on just building up those shields on your own character. As you defeat enemies, you'll acquire a currency which can be used in a little shop area. Now initially when I saw this, it looked like a few other shops I'd seen, however everything was using the in-game currency and it works very well. You can quickly use that to purchase different upgrades to your deck or reshuffle the store in the hope that something better comes up. To the right of this is your skills tree, and your skill points will obviously be gained from winning battles, and you'll collect these at the end of each fight, as well as usually one more powerful random card. What I did like was how the skills actually synergize with some of the cards. So more often than not, you may go to the shop, make a few purchases thinking, yeah, this was a great choice, head over to your skill tree, and realize actually if you'd have bought that skill first, it would have improve the card that you picked up. It's something that you gradually realise over a few runs, and it means that your skill and card decisions change quite drastically depending on the character build that you've chosen. Now, I found that the priest build was absolutely incredible, because one of the difficulties with the others is not really being able to keep your health up nice and high, but the priest, as with pretty much every RPG ever, has many healing abilities. That card combat is really nice and quick. Turns are swift, moving with the D-pad to choose different enemies by pressing up and down, and then executing attacks feels quite seamless. And then those purchases you've made in the shop, maybe it's a character buff, will be here at the top of the screen, and they may save you in a pinch. You might have bought yourself a little sniper, totally forgotten about it, and you're facing a tough boss, and then suddenly you remember and you can use it. It's also nice that you can visit the shop whenever you want, which again can be an absolute lifesaver. I guess what I'm saying is I enjoyed it most because 1, it didn't feel completely random, and 2, it felt like you could use your own thinking and skills to get out of tricky situations. It's not always the case. There are times where you may find yourself against just a much tougher enemy and with a build that doesn't have those healing capabilities, and you're going to lose. But when you die, you get to keep a certain currency that then allows you to unlock permanent upgrades. The cards themselves can evolve. Sometimes this is done manually and it will obviously improve their statistics, and at others you can get a random drop which will allow you to evolve a specific card. After every 4 fights you'll face a boss enemy. These are much tougher, bigger HP bars, and generally a little bit uglier. You get the picture. And it's worth noting that you can analyze your enemy and look at their attacks, and then from there plan out a strategy. One of the biggest tests of any roguelite title, and I wouldn't say this is pure roguelite, it has like roguelite elements, and that comes when you die. Now, I've found so far that every time I've perished, I've been rewarded, and it's felt like, okay, I've died, but I've unlocked this. I've died, but this new skill's been given to me, and also these new cards have been added to my overall deck. Plus, it's given me the option to actually save those decks that I had when I died as custom ones, so I don't feel like I've just been slapped in the face. But the real test for me is, can I stop playing it? And much like Slay the Spire, it has that hugely addictive gameplay that's so incredibly compulsive, and the controls when using the D-pad work really well. As mentioned, I can't score it because I wouldn't do a sponsored review, so from there we'll move on to the visuals and the performance. Visually, I think it is quite a looker. Character models look decent, performance is solid, and load times as well are quite reasonable. The cards themselves look really nice, and the little drawings on each of them, ones like the steroid card, clearly show some of the developers' humour, although it did make the conversation when my daughter asked a little bit difficult. There are 70 different monsters designed here, and 300 of those handcrafted cards, but as always, performance is king, and it runs really well, and I haven't experienced any crashes. As far as the audio goes, it's okay. It's upbeat and intense at the right times, and certainly fits the aesthetic the game's going for. The game costs £17.49 or your regional equivalent, and it has a download size of just over 4 gigs. I personally don't mind that they've used some of the best aspects of one of my favourite games, but it stands on its own 2 feet, and there are a few little mechanics here that I haven't seen before. It's always nice when a game comes with all the DLC, runs almost flawlessly, and looks decent in docked and handheld mode. And as someone who hasn't played a huge number of different card games, I've been really pleasantly surprised by how quick and action-filled this feels, while still maintaining a good amount of quick and on-the-fly strategy. And peeking over the fence of Steam reviews, I can see why the vast majority of people rate this game really highly. So that's it. It was really nice of those guys to approach us and say, hey look, we still want your thoughts, even though the game's already out. Let me know what you think of this one. Do you like the look of it? Are you a fan of the aforementioned similar games? And will this be going on your wish list? A big thanks once again to Tino Games for sponsoring this video, and for all of you who watch our channel. We've had again 4 or 5 more patrons, which is ludicrous, but what I will say is our Discord server, my goodness, that has turned into such a nice place. If you're ever feeling just, I don't know, like you need a chat or you want to talk about your favourite games, head over to our Discord server. There's a link down in the top pinned comment. It's grown beyond what we could have hoped. It's fantastic. For all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya!
I'm running out of time, every day goes by so fast, and every moment counts, baby, I don't wanna miss a thing. We can sleep under the stars, we can sleep under the stars, or hang out in hotel bars, driving somewhere in your car. We can sleep under the stars, we can sleep under the stars, under the stars. Baby,